before matter exists in order for matter to be organized. If this force does not exist, matter will never be organized. That is, that's my position, and I leave it to Chris to finish.
So the assumption that underlies Bob's position is the one that I've been trying to get additional clarity on for a good portion of this debate. The assumption is that intelligence, planning, goal-orientedness, those things somehow are radically different in kind from matter, such that law, matter, and chance would be producing a fourth new thing by producing those things. I reject that assumption. I say that minds and intelligence and intentionality, etc., they are supervenient properties of matter, but I think that in the supervenience, they reduce to physical properties, of physical transactions, much like digestion. But just to be clear on how salient this assumption is for this debate, keep in mind that what we got out of Bob, especially in the earlier part of the debate, was that the mind that he describes is at least somehow localized in space, that it interacts through physical processes, that it at least has an origin in time, that you interact with it through other physical objects like air, sound, that kind of thing, and that the forces that it interacts with are themselves physical, firing synapses in neurons and so forth, to move muscles and bones, to move your body, which means that up until that point, it is a strictly physical object. Everything that I've just described is part of the rubric of how we define something as being physical. So in a way, up until this point, Bob is even more of a materialist than I am. The one point of divergence on this list is on this issue of planning and volition. Planning and volition. Planning for how the Earth generates life, planning for how states of matter get organized into brains, and again, what we heard on Bob's part was essentially bare assumption that a dispositioned mind external to the universe must have some input in order to generate these kinds of minds. And he says, on the other hand, that the contrary assertion, that minds are essentially matter and processes, is itself a bare assertion, but I actually provided him with a long list of footnotes showing that actually this is not a bare assertion, that we actually have good reasons to think that. That mind's abilities to behave with volition, to plan for things, to have volition, to foresee the future, and to in fact run a theory of mind at all, to at all think about how other minds operate. These are all embodied processes. We are fully aware of the right temporal-parietal junction's responsibility for our theory of mind. That we know quite a bit about the neurology that goes into planning. To knowing what in advance your supposedly free choices are going to be just by looking at the neurology of your brain. And for that, I cite the Liebe experiment, which is my footnote number 16, and its replication is in footnote 17. I cite studies, which would be footnotes 14 and 15, to show that just with an fMRI, you can predict intentional states and you can predict what the intentions are. That it seems like these things that Bob is sticking to as the cornerstones of a dualistic philosophy, as the only salient distinction between his beliefs and physicalism, are actually things that we have very solid materialist accounts for already. As I've said, we have a wealth of evidence suggesting that human brains are nothing more than linearly scaled up primate brains. That's footnotes 3 and 4 on my write-up. And that it seems like we see infant versions of volition and planning and language in other mammalian species, and possibly in other forms of animals, but I'm not too picky on that point. And it seems like their ability to do these immaterial things, or these things that Bob thinks are immaterial, or aspects of an immaterial mind, is wholly dependent on the configuration of their physical equipment, their brains. So it seems to me that what we've gotten is that the immaterial mind that Bob posits is nothing more than just a run-of-the-mill case of causal overdetermination, that even though we have physical states that can perfectly explain mental states, Bob's position is to add in this one additional element that, so far as I can see, serves no explanatory value, predicts nothing not predicted by physicalism, and needlessly interpolates one additional entity into the universe that we need not even go into, but not just one, but one for each of us. And so I'm sure that in future conversations we'll get to more of the teleological style arguments that we heard about, the quote-unquote fine-tuning of the Earth and the universe and such. But as to the question of physicalism and dualism, I believe that settles my side of the issue. And thanks for listening, guys.
Okay.